Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Pokemon video. This one's going to be I suppose, multiple trailer slash info analysis for Pokemon Sun and Moon. Today we got the trailer which revealed the 3 starters. We got to see the 2 legendaries and the box art, but we don't get the names of them. And a few extra little details. We got some extra footage of the overworld and that sort of thing. And just overall, this reveal is basically everything we kind of need to know about the starters, minus the evolutions. So, yeah, I got a bunch of screenshots here from the, I suppose, English trailer, from the Japanese trailer, and from the website. So let's just start off with the new starters. I think that's the most obvious thing to start off with, just what are the new Pokemon. First up, we have our grass starter, whose name is Rowlet, or Owlet, and this is the grass quill Pokemon. The obviously website says that the height is 1 foot tall, weight is 3.3 pounds, type is grass slash flying. So Rowlet is the only one of these 3 starters that has a dual typing from the beginning. We're not sure if the other 2 eventually gain a second typing, and of course the ability is Overgrow, which is the standard grass starter ability. Description says that Rowlet can attack without making a sound. It flies silently through the skies, drawing near to its opponent without being noticed, and then lashing out with powerful kicks. It can also attack from a distance using the razor-sharp leaves that form part of its feathers. So that's really interesting, just seeing there that it mentions powerful kicks. So I initially thought that, like, okay, this thing's going to evolve into just a flying type Pokemon. We're going to get a standard, some grass moves and then some flying moves. But now knowing that, like, it's realistically going to learn probably some moves like double kick and stuff like that, since that's part of the description of what it is. Some of these extra images here from the website give you a better idea of the Pokemon and the way its form works, what the wings are like, and why its leaves are sharp, and I suppose that will be its signature. I suppose we'll get potentially a new signature attack, like a grass kind of flying type move that fits. And yeah, it's just a really interesting looking Pokemon. I think it's probably my favorite of the 3 Rowlet. Owl's obviously being pretty cool, and it having the whole thing of being able to rotate its head backwards and then do the whole sideways head thing. And we do get a further description though. Its visual abilities are impressive. The darkness of night is no obstacle to Rowlet. It can twist its neck nearly 180 degrees from front to back, so it can see directly behind itself. It has a habit of turning its head in battle to face its trainer and receive instructions. The move Leafage attacks an opponent by striking it with leaves. Rowlet knows this move from the moment it becomes your partner. So there we go, confirmation of its kind of signature attack. Leafage is this, firing. I suppose it's kind of a grass flying version of Razor Leaf. Obviously, I suppose it having razor feathers, I suppose, is a more fitting move rather than Razor Leaf. But anyway, pretty interesting just to know. Next up is Litten, who is obviously this is the Fire Cat Pokemon, and the name is pretty, obvious, like lit and then kitten, and it fits in with the whole fire theme. In general, I like the look. The height is said to be 1 foot 4 inches, weight 9.5 pounds, type fire, ability blaze, fairly standard there. Description says, logical but also passionate. Litten always remains cool-headed and doesn't show its emotions on the surface. You see kind of a brief idea of kind of how it works. When it uses its fire attacks, it's kind of hairs kind of stand up on end and they kind of go a bit red, and I suppose it gives you an idea about in general how it works. And it says here, Litten can attack with flaming hairballs. Its fur is rich in oils and immensely flammable. Litten grooms itself by licking its fur and then uses the collected fur as fuel for fireball attacks. When the time comes for Litten to shed its old fur, it all burns up in a glorious blaze. The move Ember attacks an opponent by firing a small flame at it. Litten knows this move from the moment it becomes your partner, so Ember is going to be its move, and I suppose what they're going for here is that Litten has a kind of unique way of doing Ember that fits in with the type of Pokemon that it is. But it's interesting in that I suppose the description here gives you an idea about what they're going to focus on, I suppose, as the Pokemon evolves, and the idea of flaming hairballs and its skin being rich in oils and flammable, and it'll probably have some sort of a signature attack down the line that relates to all of that stuff. But definitely interesting. I know a lot of people were very excited to see a Fire Cat starter. Our water starter is Poplio. I'm not sure if that's the right pronunciation. Obviously, we didn't get these names said. We just got them shown to us. This is the Sea Lion Pokemon. Height 1 foot 4 inches. Weight 16.5 pounds. Type Water. Ability Torrent. Fairly standard once again. Poplio's swimming speed is known to exceed 25 miles per hour. It's better at moving in the water than on land. Still, when it's on land, it takes advantage of the elasticity of its balloons to perform acrobatic stunts and jumps. And you can sort of see the style of thing it can do. It can create bubbles out of its nose, and it's obviously kind of emphasizing the whole, you can sort of train the sea lions aspect of it, and it can jump on its own bubbles, and it does tricks and stuff like that. It says here, Poplio can snort out balloons made of water. Watch it spin water balloons into playful battle strategy. Both frivolous and hard-working, Poplio can easily get carried away, unleashing enough power in battle to make it quite a spectacle. But Poplio's determined spirit means it can usually be found practicing hard on its balloon skills. The water gun move attacks an opponent by firing a jet of water. Poplio knows this move from the moment it becomes your partner. So, interesting, it's the emphasis here is on, it creates these bubbles, they're like balloons, and it can do tricks with them, and that's the kind of animation kind of stuff they'll do with it. But, very interesting just that of the three starters, it's only Rowlet who has, from the beginning, its own signature move. So that's very interesting. I assume the others will get a signature move as they kind of level up and stuff like that, but overall, that's the kind of basic kind of description of the three of them. And overall, I really like Rowlet. I think he's my favorite. I think that he's definitely the starter I'm going to choose from the beginning. I like straight away, we know the dual typing just in the first form. Flying, that covers your Pokemon that knows fly, that obviously you're going to teach fly to. The fact that it's an owl, I think, is very, very cool, and especially like an owl with now three evolution stages. I'm really interested to see how they more emphasize the kicking aspect of him and what he looks like at the final evolution stage. Litten, I think, is my second favorite. Again, like the idea of a Fire Cat Pokemon, the whole theme of the Pokemon, if it's like the whole cat, licking itself, and fiery fur balls, flammable skin oils and that sort of thing. That seems really cool, and I could see some really cool, like, kind of big cat looking Pokemon by the end that would look powerful. Poplio, on the other hand, I'm struggling to see what this one will in any way look like at its third evolution stage. Just the fact that it's so almost over the top cute, like, how did they make the starter look very imposing? Because I think that's the thing with all the starter Pokemon. They look really cute at the first stage, but by the third evolution form, they, look cool, but the cuteness is sort of gone, and they very much stand up as a powerful Pokemon, and so I'm struggling to see how the kind of ball nose and kind of very cute aspects to it will look in a third form. So definitely Poplio needs to convince me a bit, but I think the general idea of the Pokemon is interesting. It's just like, this is kind of more the style of Pokemon I'd maybe see as like just being one of the other Pokemon and maybe not the starter, but we'll definitely see how it goes as we go on. And I suppose continuing on to that, with the way we choose the starter Pokemon, the various bits of part of the trailers give us an idea about kind of how that actually comes to take place. the two characters that seem to be involved in you getting your Pokemon for the first time are the younger looking potentially professor guy called Kukui, Kukui, who's the guy who tells you, like, welcome to paradise. This is the Alola region, and he says cousin, so he's obviously your cousin or something like that. You just come here. He potentially is the professor, if not the professor's assistant, because I think later on they talk about a guy called Hala, I think, because in the Japanese trailer you see the boy from Hawaii. You look at his DS and you see a guy called Hala basically saying, this is your choice between the three Pokemon. So the guy who throws the Pokemon out initially, it seems to be him who does it. The kind of bigger guy who you can see here on screen. So that seems to be the main two guys, and this obviously is where you get to choose your Pokemon. And in addition to that, it's really interesting that you see also, I think, in the Japanese trailer, that when you choose your Pokemon, your character actually picks it up, which I don't remember ever being a thing in any of the games. Obviously the graphics weren't good enough in most of the previous Pokemon games to show that, but I don't remember it being a thing in X and Y where the Pokemon you chose, you actually like straight away took it out of its Pokeball and like lifted it up. So you see the trainer lifting up the Litten here, and I think that's a really cool feature. I'm kind of wondering, like, as we get like a little more cutscenes in this game potentially, will we see more of that, like people actually like physically interacting with their Pokemon beyond just issuing like battle orders or whatever. But yeah, it's cool. You can you get a better idea of the general look of the location of, like, I suppose the town where you get your first Pokemon, which I assume is your new hometown. It's like a kind of coastal, small coastal town that also has this kind of more foresty like area, and there's this kind of stage area as well, just in the background, that you can sort of see that's where you are given your first Pokemon. You kind of choose them off a stage, and it's obviously some form of a basic battle arena, which is where you fight your rival, who you can see little bits of throughout the trailer as well. He seems to be the rival who chooses the starter that is weak to yours, because you see him using Rowlet against your own trainer's Litten. So that's really interesting, I think. But yeah, speaking of your own trainer, we do get a look at the male and female trainer. A little bit closer look at the male trainer, but in general I like the design. I do hope this somewhat confirms trainer customization. As you can see here from this screenshot, you can at the very least choose your skin tone like you could in X and Y. It seems like there might be a little more option. I don't remember exactly how many skin tone options you had, but based on what other people are saying, it seems like there's like one more kind of shade of skin tone option, and in general it looks cool. The general look of the male and female trainer work quite nicely, and if you can further like augment the customization by later on being able to choose if you want to wear a hat or not, different hats, different clothing, that makes it all the better. But yeah, the one time we get a full, I suppose, body shot of the female trainer is in the background scene of most of the battles that we see. And again, just I think that the clothing of both the male and female trainer fit the whole kind of Hawaiian theme of this new region, Alola. Again, I find that really hard to pronounce. Like, it's obviously meant to be a play on the fact that it's themed after Hawaii and aloha, so it's just like Alola. It's just such a kind of mouthful, tongue twister kind of type thing. But again, it'll probably take someone like officially saying it and getting the correct pronunciation for us to fully understand what exactly they're going for here. But in general, I'm quite impressed with the trainers. Other character is that you get a look at your mother in the game. You see two shots. The English language trailer just kind of shows her kind of looking off into the distance. I suppose that's you just leaving on your journey, and it's a little emotional moment with your mother. The other one is in the house. You see that at least it seems like your mother has a Pokemon of her own, a Meowth, who I assume is like Ash's mom's Mr. Mime from the anime or something like that, like kind of an assistant. And you can see Kukui in the background. So this is potentially where he comes over to your house. But I suppose there's a slight confusion thing over there in that we seem to get potentially one of the opening kind of parts of the game where Kukui like contacts you via like Skype or whatever the Pokemon equivalent is, and kind of talks to you. And I assume this is how he tells you, like, come over here, we'll give you a Pokemon, or something like that. I'm coming over to you and stuff like that. But you know, he said cousin in the previous one. Maybe that's just part of his character that he calls everyone cousin, or you literally are his cousin. I'm not fully sure. But yeah, that's the general human characters that we see. So I suppose next we'll move on to the two legendary Pokemon. We don't have their names. You know, there are a few rumored names that came out, you know, some trademark stuff, but they haven't given us the names just yet. But I actually really do like the design for both of these Pokemon. I think I prefer the Sun one a little bit more, the kind of Sun Lion Pokemon. It's very cool looking. I find a lot of the kind of quadruped legendaries don't often look the greatest. Like, I think the three legendary dog Pokemon don't really feel all that legendary. I suppose the one that stands out the most to me is probably Dialga as like one of the better legendary kind of quadrupeds. This one seems really cool, just a really big, powerful line, sun power, and then the really interesting visual thing of its face and kind of like eyes, like the fact that it looks like it's kind of a kind of star map kind of type thing on its face, and then when it activates its power, this kind of symbol comes into its forehead, and that kind of somewhat represents its power. And then with the other legendary Pokemon, it's this kind of giant bat-like thing with, again, sort of a Starfield type pattern across its wings, and when it activates its power, it kind of glows white almost. Like it kind of feels like there's a kind of link between the two, and it's like a reversal type thing. When the lion activates its powers, it kind of like it kind of seems to emphasize the more dark aspects of its face, whereas the generally dark bat Pokemon seems to emphasize the light when it uses its attacks. Don't know if that means anything with regards to, like, you know, at nighttime the moon comes out and the daytime the sun comes out, and that's the kind of cyclic nature of their powers, but it probably somewhat relates to both of them having a signature attack relating to the, you know, sun and moon. But in general, I'm quite impressed with the two legendaries. I'm looking forward to hearing their names, hearing what the attack names are called. I think that's probably one of the few pieces of information they probably will give out before the game comes out. But yeah, that's really about it for the legendaries. I think they look cool, but there's not a whole lot to say outside of that. I suppose we can briefly mention the box art, which I think looks pretty cool. Just seeing these kind of really kind of like I suppose, you know, art style for the two legendaries. The line I think looks very cool with its mouth open, kind of roaring, gives you a better look at its kind of general body, the way its kind of legs are, the tail, and then the really unique kind of bat-like features of the moon Pokemon. It's very, very interesting, and you can sort of see the kind of in the logos for Pokemon Sun and Moon here, the actual symbols at the side of the title kind of represents, I suppose, the symbols that we see come onto the legendary Pokemon when they activate their powers. In that that kind of X-like symbol comes onto the lion's forehead when he uses his powers, and then that kind of bat-like shape is obviously the general shape that the bat seems to form when it uses its attack. So some really cool stuff here. Final couple of things I want to mention here are just some general shots of the overworld that we get. And it seems really cool. Like, they seem to be just really very much expanding on what they did in X and Y, where they introduced obviously being able to walk diagonally and stuff like that. They seem to be emphasizing that a lot more, like the layouts of some of the towns and stuff like that. They have like buildings that are positioned to you diagonally, so like to walk into them, you have to walk into them diagonally. The paths seem to also kind of be that way as well. They're not just you know, left, right, up, down. There's like kind of curving all over the place, so it almost kind of comes across like the overworld is potentially going to be like freeform control, for the most part. Just emphasizing, I suppose, a little bit more that they now have 8 directions of movement. But the visuals for the overworlds just seem a lot fancier, I suppose is the best way to put it. A lot of interesting things, you know. You can see the theme of Hawaii definitely like coming out here, just in the way the houses look, all the trees, the kind of tropical nature of everything, some of the more kind of ancient stonework you see around the place. And we do get one shot of the kind of a larger look at least part of Alola, with like, you get a look at the volcano here, a look at, I suppose, where the first couple of towns are perhaps located. You're a small town by the coast, you know, there's some islands nearby, some more kind of foresty places, a cave, and then the more kind of city-like roads and stuff like that. I saw a lot of people like freaking out. This looks like a very small region, but this in no way, I think, is the full region. Like, it's clear that the road continues on past the screen here, and I think this is probably just the first 2-3 like little locations that we get in the game. So, general, it seems really cool, and the Hawaii theme absolutely works, and they're really kind of fitting it in all over the place. And then you can see, here's a kind of closer look at that stuff. You can see a car on the road, and again, just emphasizing the kind of further graphics, and that like it doesn't seem like this is just a walk forward, left, right type thing. That seems fully 3D, and that like you have complete control over wherever you want to go. But yeah, I think that's all I really want to talk about here. It's for a first reveal of information outside of the games existing and the names. I was actually quite impressed with this. They just went kind of all in on the starters, the first forms of the starters, gave us a lot of information, a lot of visuals on them, which is something they needed to do. Gave us a look at the legendaries, which I think people definitely wanted. They had to show off the box art, I think, at this point in time. And then a little look at like your trainer and that sort of thing. A couple of hints at the way the world is and the improved graphics and like general way the overworld works. Final thing I want to mention is the release date. Most of the trailers say November 18th, except it's apparently November 23rd for Europe, which makes no sense because usually in Europe games come out on Friday, but November 23rd is like a Wednesday, so that seems really weird that the game is specifically in Europe for like one of the first times ever not coming out on a Friday. I do think that was the case though with X and Y. It didn't come out on a Friday, but for whatever reason it seems weird that I don't have any idea why they're specifically having it come out like 5 days later. I hope they change that as it gets closer, because it makes no sense that it would take just 5 days longer to like finish the European version of the game, but whatever. But yeah, in the comments let me know what your thoughts were on the trailers, the information we got revealed. Which starter are you going to pick? Which legendary do you prefer? And which, I suppose, early on, which game version do you think you're going to get? For me, I'm thinking I'm going to pick Rowlet as my starter, the grass flying owl, and I'm probably going to get Sun, but again, we don't know about the which exclusive Pokemon, what the main difference between the versions is and stuff like that, but initially my thoughts are Sun and Rowlet, but let me know what your thoughts are. But yeah, other than that, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.